So today I'm back with the ultimate tier list, the tier list of tier lists, so to say. Which of my tier lists is actually the best tier list, in my opinion? Of course, this is some kind of April joke. It's another complete serious tier list. It's more like a meme tier list, but still it has some value because I think I can actually go over my own videos and say which kind of video I would say is good, which tier list is actually really helpful for new players, for veterans, and what kind of tier list I should not have done or maybe should have changed it in a bit. So it can be helpful as well. If you have any comments on this, not only in terms of what kind of tier list you enjoyed and which kind of not, please let me know, but also in regards to what kind of tier lists you want to see in the future, please let me know. I'm always open for that. I'm after all the tier list enjoyer. So with that much out of the way, let's start with quickly going over the tiers. We have S to O tier. O tier is for old, it's outdated, it's not really good anymore in that sense, it's not working that well. So that's why I put a lot of stuff that is not working that much anymore. Then we have C to A tier, I would say just tier lists that I are not particularly fond of or not that crazy good. And then we have S tier tier lists that are very helpful, that I think are very nice. So let's start with the tier list now. Very easy. So let's start with the outdated stuff. I have a lot of tier lists that I made in December regarding PvE, DPS, offensive support, and healers. Those are of course outdated. December, it's already quite old. It's before the last balance patch, so it's just not working anymore. Let's stay with the PvE instance content tier lists because those are all instance content tier lists. Of course, they're old, but we have new ones, and those I actually quite like. So we have the updated version of the Boon DPS tier list. I would say for me it's an A tier. It's working quite well. It's still up to date, so check it out if you need it. And I would say Boon DPS, I actually put it quite well together. I think there are no bigger mistakes in there. I think it's overall, I'm quite happy with it. Then we have the DPS tier list. I think the DPS tier list is always like very subjective. I think this is why it goes into B tier for me. I think DPS tier lists in that sense are always like, do you want to have benchmark? Are you performing very well on it? Or is it a hard build and you still can do it? I think it's somewhat hard to actually justify where to put stuff. So sometimes an easy build has to go S tier for me, but some people say, I mean, I can play every build, then higher benchmark will be better for me. So it's really hard for me to justify every single spec to be better than another one. I always try to put the utility together with it and say benchmark alone doesn't bring me much if I don't have group utility, if I don't have ease of use. But someone else might make it differently. So that's why the DPS tier list is for me lower than the Boon DPS, because the Boon DPS is very objective in that way, because if you can provide a lot of boons but still dealing a lot of damage, that's probably better. Yeah, so that's why I think the Boon DPS is better. And then we have the support tier list. I think the support tier list is also for me an A tier. I think in high A tier. I think it's very on point. I really like it for people that want to get an information when to use which healer. I think it's really nice. I think it's very objective for the most part, because the healer can be really easily rated how well it does, because you can have a lot of utility and then you're better than another healer. If you have even more healing, then it's even more worthwhile to run this. So I think it's definitely for me a very nice tier list, especially for new players to learn which class is very good at healing and which is not. So I think that's very nice. Then let's talk quickly about the solo tier lists. So of course we have the solo tier list from January. I think this one is outdated, of course, and very important, it's also, I made a big mistake with Reaper in there, so big error of my part here. But in the new tier list, I would say I fixed that, and I would say it's an S tier. It's very good. I think I put a lot of effort into that in researching all the builds that you can play. It's also very fun to rate solo builds, because it's very nice to see how tanky possible builds actually can become, and it's very on point, I would say. So be sure to check that out if you're a solo enjoyer. I think the overall tier list from January was good, but it's still outdated, of course. And then we have the very fresh April tier list, so to say, of the overall. Of course, end of March, April tier list, that's where it's at. I think the overall tier list is not as useful for a veteran for the most part, because if you know the game already, then you know which game modes you should look at to learn which class you want to play. But for new people, it can be very helpful. So I would say for me, for new people, this is an S tier as well. Just because you can say, okay, I see that my Willbender is actually performing really well in all game modes. Maybe I should start with Willbender. I think that's really helpful for new people. So that's why I would put it so highly. And I think it's also quite nice to showcase a lot of the builds in the video itself. So I think that's why I like this tier list a lot. Then let's talk about Gem Store tier list. I really like my Gem Store tier list. I think it's very helpful, not only for new people, but also for veterans that want to know which kind of items they should spend stuff on. So I think gem store tier list also S tier for me. Put a lot of effort into that one because I also researched how much gems every single item costs and how much they go on sale. So I think overall this is a very nice tier list as well. And I might update it in the future when more stuff comes out, but for now I think that's also one of the tier lists that stays up to date for a very long time. So I think overall it's a very nice tier list. Then we have the 2 PvP ranked tier lists. They are a little bit older. I did not make them in the last few months because they are quite subjective. For me, I would put both of them, of course, in old, but even the newest one I would put in C tier because it's very hard and say this is very good in ranked. You can put out, let's say, 3 to 5 builds that are very high tier, yeah, that work very well. But other than that, you have a very big medium tier where you can say, okay, those build works in the right situation, in the right circumstances very well. So I think that's why the ranked tier list for me is something that is very, very subjective, what kind of playstyle you like. And that's why it's really hard for me. Maybe let me know if you see that differently, if you want to see more ranked tier lists in the future. But for now, I'm not quite happy with my ranked tier lists in the past. Then we have the Circ tier list. I'm also not that happy with the Circ tier list. It's very new player oriented, aimed at, and I think that makes it for veterans a little bit less interesting. So I think it's also for me a C tier. It's not that crazy good. It's very good in what it does for new players. It lets you know which classes you can actually pick in a Circ. But for, let's say, a veteran or a player that knows a lot about World, this is not a tier list that you would typically watch. On the other hand, we have my old roaming tier list. Of course, it's outdated. And then I have my new roaming tier list. I really like my new roaming tier list. I think my roaming tier list is an A tier. I think it's not as good as my S tier tier list, but it's still on point. I have a lot of nice footage in there. I was wrong with the core Revenant though, so that's why it's an A tier here. Then let's talk about my PvE, so to say, discussion, debate tier list. So we have my strike mission tier list. I really enjoy my strike mission tier list. It's very subjective. Yes, it's about rating how fun they are and how challenging they are, the tier strike missions. So I think it's an S tier, low S tier for me. It's really fun. It's a nice debate. And I think I actually made it quite entertaining. I would say maybe I should have put it in, let's put it in a high A tier, because I should have put in footage of every strike mission to edit it in. That would be more interesting then. So that's why it's not an S tier, but other than that, it's really fun tier list. Then we have the fractal tier list. I think the fractal tier list is for me a B tier. I think I was quite concise and very nice with my rating here, but I think again I should have put in some nice fractal footage in the background of each fractal that I was currently talking about. I think that would have been way cooler. So overall, I think this is not the best tier list that I made, but it's a fun concept after all. Then I talked about the expansions. I think this is a very nice tier list, talking about the expansions and which expansions you should buy as a new player. So I think this tier list is actually for me low S tier because it's very helpful for new players and it's very nice also for veterans to talk about the expansions that they liked and what was good and not good with them. I think that's overall a very fun and very, let's say, long-lasting tier list because it will always be like that in that sense, you know. It will only get more with more expansions, but the old expansions will probably not change in the rating. So that's also very nice. So that's why it's an S tier. Very helpful to new players and very fun and nostalgic for veterans. Then we have my spear tier list where I talk about the design of each spear. So how I like the new spears that came with Chance Wilds, how I think the design of them works. I think that's for me a B tier because it's very subjective, and I have to say some of them I might change now because I played them more. I had more, let's say, interesting builds come up with them. So I think this is fun and it came out, but now it's a little bit almost outdated in that sense. Maybe I should put it in outdated, but I will put it in B tier for now. Then we have the design tier list. I'm talking here about the design of all classes and elite specs. I think this is a really nice tier list. It's really fun for just all types of players to talk about what kind of elite specs they actually think the fantasy fits, and I think that's a very nice tier list. I think that's for me an S tier tier list. It's really fun to debate stuff that is just an opinion, you know. It's not like I say Willbender is shit. I just say the design is not something that I like or something. I think that's way more interesting than always talking about very game related stuff. Than just talking sometimes about the class fantasy and roleplay behind it can also be quite fun. I noticed when editing that I missed one tier list, and this one is the Wizard's Vault tier list. The Wizard's Vault tier list is again, just like the Gemstone tier list, I think a very valuable tier list, where I rate every single item that you can purchase in the Wizard's Vault, how much value you actually get from it. I think this is not only helpful for new players, but also for people that are interested in maximizing the amount of gold you can actually get out of the Wizard's World. And I think I did it actually quite concise and on point. So I would put it in S tier as well. Lastly, we have the 2 legendary tier lists. So we have the legendary item tier list, which I talk about every single item slot that you can fill with legendaries. So about armor, about weapons, about runes, about sigils, about relic and that kind of stuff, and say how valuable that is. I think this is one of my best tier lists when it comes to just general usefulness, because a lot of people ask me what kind of legendary should I go for first. This is really helpful for those type of players. It's also very nice to debate about it, because that just brings up a lot of issues with getting ascended gear, for example, and therefore legendary can be really helpful to go for directly. So I think there's a really nice tier list to help people getting started with the right legendary. So I think that's a really nice tier list. And then lastly, we have the legendary weapon tier list, which is obviously very subjective, just rating the skins of every legendary weapon. But I really like it. I showcased it. It's a long video, but it's a really fun video to showcase all the legendaries, talking about them and debating it with chat. So yeah, I would say it's also low S tier for me, just because it's very fun. And it's something that is probably not changing too much, because I like the legendaries and I will not change my opinion on that. And therefore it's something that is long lasting. I like that. When it comes to the best tier list that I ever made, I would probably say it's probably my Gemstore tier list. I really like my Gemstore tier list. I think the Gemstore tier list is very on point and very nice and very helpful for a lot of people, but I think all of the S tier tier lists are actually quite fun. And yeah, let me know your take in the comments. And if I have some big mistakes here in terms of what tier list is actually very helpful and very on point. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this very fun meme tier list. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon. Thanks Malice, thanks Lane, and I hope to see you all in the next video.